Hi there, Cy Williams, Hi Canada Magazine, Psychedelic Canada Magazine. I'm also hosting the Psychedelic Summit, and I'm here with Jaylee Thompson and Jamie Kunkel, and we are getting ready to go from the green room down to the Psychedelic Summit floor. So let's take a walk, and guys, let's go check out the floor on the way to the summit.
All compliant like, or?
All compliant like. I think we can take our masks off because we're going to be talking. So this summer I got to go to the, was it the fourth annual ICC?
Yeah.
The fourth annual Indigenous Cannabis Cup, held at the Smoke Signals location in the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territories in southwestern Ontario. And it was friggin' amazing. There were so many people and vendors and live music, and I understand that you guys are bringing it back for a big fifth year.
Every year.
So when is...
Hopefully without the COVID.
Without the COVID would be good, although you did an amazing job of adapting for COVID, and I was really impressed with when I wanted to go take a dab, there was a big plastic thing there, and made me feel...
So we were
over compliant. You know what? Nothing wrong with a little over compliance.
No, we stayed on board with everybody, health industry, followed the Ontario guidelines. Police, like I said, at the end of the day, we were over compliant.
I would say so too. We attended 4 events in 2021. We attended the ICC and Tyendinaga Mohawk Territories that Smoke Signals and Jamie and Jaylee hosted. And we attended HempFest and the Lift Conference in Toronto. And now we're at the GrowUp Conference. So we've had 4 major events this year. Now, we're getting ready to go up to the Psychedelic Summit right now, and Jaylee and Jamie are going to be discussing and talking about Indigenous roots and psychedelics, and it's going to be a really amazing talk. We're going to talk about all sorts of interesting things that are affecting psychedelics
You were walking too fast.
Oh, sorry about that. So, we're in the conference floor now, and we're cutting through, and we're on our way to the Psychedelic Summit. Jamie Kunkel, Smoke Signals Dispensary, is here. Jaylee Thompson is also here, and we are heading over to the Summit presentation room so that we can get ready for this panel. We're cutting through the conference floor. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of bustle and hustle going on. People are really excited to be in Niagara right now for the GrowUp Conference, whether they're here for extractions, whether they're here to learn more about grow or promote their own companies and businesses within the cannabis space, or if they're here for the Psychedelic Summit. There is plenty to do, plenty to hear, just plenty to enjoy at the GrowUp Conference 2021. So we're going to go in to the Psychedelic Summit presentation room, and I'm going to get Jamie and Jaylee all set up, and we're going to be introducing them in about 5 minutes. So,
Buffet table full of mushrooms.
Oh, is there a buffet table full of mushrooms in here? No, but that's okay. So I will catch you in a little while. I'm going to go up on the stage. I'm going to be introducing these phenomenal guests. And don't forget to stop by our booth, Hi Canada Magazine, GrowUp Conference 2021. Psychedelic Summit 2021, held at the Scotiabank Convention Center at the GrowUp Conference. This panel is called Honoring Indigenous Roots. And it's my pleasure to get this going. Scientists studying the clinical applications of psychedelics inevitably find their way to ayahuasca, shamanism, and the role of natural mind-altering substances in indigenous spirituality and religious practice. In a field of study where science and religious practice can truly coexist, researchers and non-Indigenous people must be mindful of honoring the traditions of sacred plants as they attempt to build a bridge between native cultures and the efficacy of their medication. This session will consider the traditional use of psychedelics and the reciprocity that must come with adapting it. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Jamie Kunkel, Smoke Signals Dispensaries, and Jaylee Thompson, primordial mycology. So we are going to take a slightly different approach with this, and it's going to be more conversational, and we're going to talk about Jaylee and Jamie about their experiences with psychedelics and their perspectives on. Recently, we had the opportunity to sit down with Jaylee and discuss a lot of the things he had going in issue 2 of Psychedelic Canada magazine, so there's a shameless plug right there. But there are so many amazing things going on that are honoring Indigenous roots right now, and I'd like to turn the mics over to Jamie and Jaylee and let them tell us a little more about what they have going on.
Jaylee? I guess I'll go first. So my name is Jaylee Thompson. I'm the owner and operator of Primordial Mycology. We are a research and development facility out of Tyendinaga Mohawk Reservation in Ontario. We focus mainly on the uses of psilocybin and how it will affect our communities and our cultures coming forward into the future, and mainly how it's supposed to help with that.
Okay. Jamie?
So I've always been into medicine. I've spent most of my life, but traditional medicines, natural medicines, stuff given to us, by Mother Nature. Mother Nature gives us most of our medicine. It's grown on the back of Mother Earth. As far as the new stuff that's coming out, that's going to be Jaylee, the next generation.
Yeah.
Not much scientist in me. He's come up with some pretty cool things though. And it's more about looking at how they affect the body, the mind, figuring out how to use them, where to use them, the right times to use them. Not all medicines work on people the same, so there is, I guess, just like any other form of medicine, it boils down to the mind or the state of mind that the person's in, the problems they're going through.
Now you have been serving medical patients, people who consume cannabis for decades within the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory, and in recent years, the last 5 years, that has just exploded for smoke signals for yourself and for the Tyendinaga. Have you seen firsthand the rise of psychedelics within your communities?
Personally, myself, yes. It's actually, so to speak, about the rise, kicking the door wide open on cannabis for me. I guess it can stem back to that. So I lost my mother due to cancer, which I've been into cannabis at least 25 years, learning, figuring things out. But it was always behind the doors things. I used to grow, had a license from Health Canada, stuff like that. I don't know, the whole Health Canada, your hands are tied. There's so many things that you can't do. So it was at that point where I was just ready to say, I've had enough. And then, lo and behold, Trudeau starts thinking about legalization of cannabis. And the minute I heard it, I was like, you know what? I've also come from tobacco industry, tobacco, gas, everything else. So I knew one of the first things that they were going to do was try and, put a lid on the Indigenous market, or exclude us from it altogether. So it was, like I said, I lost my mom to cancer, which gave me that little bit of gas to go for the, I'm going to do this. And unfortunately, my daughter ended up with cancer as well. Two of the most important women in my life, period.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what wouldn't you do for the two most important women in your life?
Anything.
Right?
Yeah.
So I figured, let's do this, kick the door wide open. But I myself spent, when I lost my mom, I didn't realize how much pain that she provided in my sales, you know what I mean? And I spent a couple years not coming out of the house, just kind of sticking to myself. And again, it goes back to some of the mushrooms and psychedelics. Like I said, right time, right place, tried things out, seen the big picture.
Yeah.
And when I seen the big picture, it was just, so sometimes it's not a cure, per se. It's more about the direction. So it gives you, it'll put you in the right state of mind, give you the direction. So instead of your mind coming to a certain spot, hitting a brick wall, it shows you how to get around that brick wall. And state of mind means everything sometimes.
Earlier upstairs, we were talking about perspectives on psychedelics, and you mentioned that it's like a roadmap. Sometimes you need to see it, like when you call up maps on your phone to find directions, to find your way. And sometimes, you had mentioned this, I thought this was very poignant upstairs, that sometimes psychedelics can act that way. So I was wondering if you could expand upon that, maybe. Let's talk about it for a couple seconds.
Yeah, well, again, it's kind of like what I was just going through. It's that state of mind. So sometimes you know what has to be done, but it doesn't always mean that your mind or your body are ready for those steps. So, like I was saying, the psychedelics, it's like the Maps quest on your phone. Get those into your system, all those questions, those thoughts, knowing what you have to do, but just not having the, I don't know, the nerves to do it. Like something, you're not at that point. But yeah, that shows you how to get to that destination, how to put you in that right state of mind, what road to take, what path, what decisions to make. Sometimes it's not always easy making the right decisions or the wrong ones and accepting the consequences.
Oh, true.
Same thing. That some of these psychedelics, I don't know, when you come to a big body of water, you always have two choices. You either go around or you swim across.
Okay.
And with the psychedelics, it'll show you the way around, or it will just allow you to accept the fact that you're going for a swim. But either way, you get to the destination.
How important are ceremony and tradition to consuming psychedelics within your scope of psychedelics?
Relevance or necessity, I guess. So I think another thing, like I was saying upstairs, so sometimes it's about medicine, sometimes it's, they call it visions or vision quests, but that's what's happening when you're going on a vision quest. You have answers, or you have questions, but you don't have answers.
Okay.
So the psychedelics help you come to the proper conclusions or the right state of mind. Like I was saying, I wasn't there by any means, but I would assume that, I mean, if I was going to war with somebody else, I'd probably have to have a pocket full of mushrooms or something else, because I don't think it's natural to want to hurt somebody else.
No, I agree with you there.
But sometimes it is, maybe not so much in 21, but back then it was a necessity. It boils down to
on the front
them or us,
yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, you know it's wrong to choose you over somebody else. But if it has to be done, how can you get to the right state of mind to accept those consequences?
And live with that
Exactly.
for the rest of your life
Yeah.
afterwards. Jay Lee, if you don't mind me asking, I am fascinated with the idea of psilocybin caviar. And I understand that is one of your specialties, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this caviar process and this caviar I speak of.
Of course. So caviar in itself obviously comes from fish, and there's no way for me to make that. So it's a fake caviar. I make that through a process called spherification, and so it's just the reaction of two chemicals. So I take a liquid form with my psilocybin extract in it, and it has a calcium carbonate in it, and then I use that and drop it into a bowl full of another liquid, which then just creates these tiny, beautiful little pearls, right? So at that point, they're infused with whatever dosage I desire. But I was never into chewing mushrooms.
Okay.
Just the texture was gross. And I imagine a lot of people could probably agree with me. And I've never been a fan of chocolate. Call me a weirdo,
Okay.
but I've never liked chocolate.
Not
so
everybody has to like chocolate.
I ended up going my own way to figure out a way to eat and consume psychedelic mushrooms. And I just kind of settled on a very fun and fancy way because it kind of looks like a lava lamp when you're dropping them through. So it's very beautiful to see when you're on mushrooms and making more mushrooms.
No fishy taste. Best tasting caviar I've ever had.
Best day. Okay. And what has the response been to the caviar?
Negative. Everybody loves it.
Everybody loves it. I would imagine they would. What else can you gentlemen tell me about what's going on in the psychedelics world within the Tyendinaga or within your circles in general?
Well, so to touch slightly on what he was saying about the psychedelics and how they let you visualize the brick wall, whether to go through it or to go around it. So the word psychedelic comes from the English word psyche for your mind, and then the Greek word delos, which means manifest. So psychedelic in its origin means to manifest your mind. So it takes the internal and mental problems, struggles, or images that you have and gives it more of a physical, interactable option.
Well, very well said. How about you, Jamie? What else have you been noticing in the psychedelic space in your circles?
Was, I was gonna say, I like choosing battles. so I, as far as out in the open, I believe maybe 6 months ago, again, just like cannabis, the police dropped us off a nice little fancy letter stating that they didn't want psychedelics in the stores or in the community, and that if we continued to provide them on our shelves, then there would be repercussions. And instead of it being OPP because it was a federal offense, that it would be the RCMP. It's typical arguments from the policing agencies and the governments and the so-called chief of council, whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I have an obligation to myself to provide medicine. If somebody asked me for medicine, at no point would I ever turn anybody away. If it helps, it helps. The cop says to me, yeah, well, unlike pot, this may have you leaping out the window or off the balcony or, you know what? Anything that you can get at your pharmacy has the ability to do that, if abused. So, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna sit down and try and chew a pound of mushrooms, there's some very bad things that happen.
I don't think you're going to have that pleasant a time if you sat down and ate an entire pound of mushrooms.
But like I said,
That's a macrodose.
in small macrodose, there is very positive outcomes to it. Like you said, the rebuilding, I guess, of neurological pathways, great on multiple fronts for multiple diseases, problems. No, like I said, there's lots that we know already, and I think just like cannabis, if we can get this kicked off and rolling, then it'll be the same thing. More and more positive things will come from it when you allow people to explore the options.
Oh, I agree with that as well. In one of the panels this morning, Mark Hayden was listing off, I think 12 or 14 different types of psychedelics within the psychedelic sphere. And I know psilocybin is one of the major important ones, and obviously they're one of the more popular ones. What other psychedelics are you seeing besides psilocybin?
Well, so obviously there's peyote and there's ayahuasca, but that's simply because we've always had pan-tribal relationships. So even psilocybin mushrooms. We as a people, Iroquois, didn't have that naturally. We got that from further down south, however many millennia ago, right? Kind of like the crocodile dance. Where do you see crocodiles in Ontario? No. We have acquired those through pan-tribal relationships. More of a very efficacy manner. So it's, we give you something, you give us something.
I like that. I had a hard time learning that word before our panel, so we had to work on it. I now know, I learned a new word today, it's efficacy. Yeah, I would love to hear more about this exchange. I'm sure you picked up, I'm sure that groups picked up all sorts of interesting things that normally they wouldn't have had access to in the region or area.
So thousands of years ago, obviously prior to contact, there would have been more of a centralized area between the different tribal relationships, and so we would have had, not like a jamboree, but kind of like a big meeting where we all would have come together and exchanged different cultural gifts, right?
Like a summit.
Like a psychedelic summit, yes.
Wow, I love this. Okay.
But so there's many different types of psychedelics throughout our history, and what they've been used for, what they've been used to achieve has varied on the people. And for us at this moment, it's to help battle the cultural depression that our communities are going through, because we all know that psychedelics are very good for depression.
Very good.
As far back as the history-wise, we've always used the gifts that Mother Nature has given us, right? So whether it be psychedelic mushrooms or non-psychedelic mushrooms, we have words for both,
Okay.
right? My mind's drawing a blank on the word for psychedelic mushroom at the moment, but the word for edible mushroom is escanganandum, which means bone bread, because they grow near decaying matter.
Okay. Wow, I'm learning a lot at this particular panel. I had asked about different types of psychedelics that you guys might have encountered as well. I mentioned psilocybin, and we talked a little bit about psilocybin. Are you seeing anything else in your travels? DMT, I've seen a resurgence in LSD in a few of our circles, or is it primarily psilocybin that you're focused on right now?
Well, for myself, it's just the psilocybin.
Yeah, because you're making that awesome caviar. Jamie?
Well, I'm old enough that I've probably tried everything once in my lifetime. Some things are great. Chemical science lab, whatever you want to call it. I've come to the conclusion, not really. Not for me, I guess. Other people have their own, I guess, opinions on the matter, which is just fine.
Yeah.
Myself, as time goes on, I tend to find that the things that are natural and that have always been there work the best. And I'm assuming maybe they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? It's everything that human mind, body, everything that you need for your existence on your journey through this part of your life, it's here and it's provided for us. And I tend to find that the natural things work the best, medicine-wise, when it comes to health in the human body and mind.
Very well said. Where we were walking down to the conference, we were discussing exclusion and talking about how exclusion in the cannabis industry and concerns about being excluded from this new emerging psychedelics industry. I was wondering if we could go back and talk on that just for a couple of minutes before we close up.
Yeah, well, so it tends to go, like I said, I come originally, I made a go in the tobacco industry, give me a nice kickoff start in life. But there was the reality that as people, why were we smuggling? Or why is our tobacco or our cigarettes classified as contraband? I don't know what their end goal is, whether it's the government doesn't want us to move forward or doesn't want us to claim these things, but at the end of the day, that tobacco was a gift from us to them. just for us to be completely excluded in the economical market, which meant billions, trillions of
easily,
dollars,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And well, like you said, if you look at today, one of the biggest arguments, and every community still doesn't have drinking water. So when you think about the money that was made, and then some of the realities in life, again, when the cannabis come around, I remember that. I lived there. I smoked it for almost 20 years of my life, you know what I mean? I just couldn't, I wasn't okay with it. So that's
We're
why.
not okay with being excluded.
No,
Yeah.
and so that's why I kicked the door wide open on the Indigenous cannabis market. It was one of those stick your neck out, I guess. I knew there was a very good chance that I had lots to lose, whether it be my freedom, the other things that I had accumulated in my life. But what it really boiled down to was, these are products that were here prior to existence. We are a land-based people. We live off of the land. And like I said, everything that we need for health, existence, whatever you want to call it, we were always told that it's provided for us and that it's here naturally. Only makes sense. They did try to exclude us from the cannabis market. I know myself, I wasn't having it. When I see this, like I said, we started to make a go at this. Within 6 months of us doing it, we were getting letters. Stop, cease, threats, fines. The cops even told me, if I make this push for the psychedelic industry, I take the risk of losing how far I've come in the cannabis.
Everything you built.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a threat.
Yeah. But my answer is still the exact same. I would never turn down a person when it comes to their health. If you ask me, I will provide. And the argument stands the same. These are products that are here. They grow on this continent. They always have. They always will. And they were here prior to contact. If they've always been here, and I know for a fact that we've always used them, just because it's now being turned into an economical source doesn't give them the right to have us excluded.
I agree. Very well said. Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to open up to the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions, please put your hand up, and we'd love to table those now. Oh, right here.
My name is Ajay. I'm from Niagara Falls. I'm from Indigenous city of people called Kunkel. And we've also had a history of using like for worship, for transforming deities that are other than ancient Hinduism. So I wanted to touch upon the pan-tribal connections that Jay spoke about. In terms of pan-tribal connections, besides the transfer of knowledge, were also key horticulture and biotechnology knowledge passed on, because when I was studying under we would often touch upon the fact that because we developed the long-term Indigenous community himself, we could never get a direct picture of what the cultural exchange went, because essentially we was just a anthropologist who would just come in, so they would, because of the language barrier, we were never able to precisely pin down the cultural rituals that were passed on. So I wanted to ask them that how does the kind of cultural connection introduce psychedelics to different communities, like I said, that are around crocodile lakes and Ontario? Is there any example of that?
Again, I'd have to agree with your buddy. I wasn't there, so I'm not that old.
So, for examples of pan-tribal relations or trading through psychedelics, the best example, I guess, would be like what he said. So our indigenous Indian tobacco, classified by the FDA, is actually a psychedelic. So anybody with cigarettes in your pocket right now, that's a tribal relationship that we've given to you, and whether you know it or not, you have a psychedelic in your pocket, thanks us.
Any other questions? See some other hands up. Right in the back there, yes, please.
Hi, we talk about the plants and honoring them, and I just want to know your thoughts on the idea of patenting that's coming, you know, in line with the psilocybin especially, and how people are trying to control ownership over something that's derived naturally from nature.
Greed.
Yeah. So
How can we combat that? You know?
I believe you can't patent something that exists naturally or comes out of the ground. You might be able to patent your own particular method of whether or not you create a product or what product said you create, but you will never have the right to patent something that grows naturally. So you shouldn't be able to exclude anybody from using psychedelic mushrooms, especially if it's for their own health.
And you're absolutely right. Greed is a very hard, if not impossible, thing to combat. So people get stuck in that, and it all boils down to the dollar. And I don't know, maybe we should give them some mushrooms. See if we can't get them in a different state of mind, because greed really is just a state of mind. I mean, it's if anything, they should be just, in our cultures, it's all about giving thanks. Like I said, everything that we need is here. It's provided for us from the time we step into this world till the time that we leave. You really just need to be able to say thanks for most things. I don't know, different, that's a hard one for us, because it's different cultures, different mindsets, different teachings.
Well, it's a hard concept to comprehend because fundamentally we are grateful, and the cure for greed is gratefulness. So to explain greed to somebody who is inherently grateful is like trying to explain a concept in Chinese to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about, right? So it's hard for us to even grasp the concept of greed.
Any other questions? Okay, on this note, I'd just like to say thank you so much to Jamie Kunkel from Smoke Signals Dispensary, Jerry Thompson.